Hello and welcome to What Would Aristotle Do? I've been wanting to make this video for some time. I'm a big fan of Alex O'Connor. He's always very courteous in his videos and he makes his points well. He's really clear and succinct. Sometimes when you listen to a philosopher speak, it seems like you need to have read all of the books that he references, and goodness, don't they reference a lot of them, to understand what they're saying at all. Alex isn't like that. His arguments are well worded and they don't require a degree in philosophy to understand. This makes his attachment to emotivism all the more frustrating to me. Now, Alistair MacIntyre, in his excellent book, After Virtue, sorry, that was me doing a reference there, he devotes a section to doing a more general kind of philosophy takedown of emotivism generally. But I thought I'd give my own take, which hopefully is a bit easier to understand as a non-philosopher. So first, I'd like to start by talking about Alex's claim that the phrase "murder is wrong" isn't a moral claim, but rather it's an expression of emotion. It could be thought of as "I do not like murder," or more succinctly, "boo murder." For the moment, let's leave aside the fact that murder is wrong by definition, because that just seems a bit of a cheap shot, but I will return to that later on in the video. Let's instead apply a little bit of Socrates-style dialogue to this and see where we get to. Now, unfortunately, Alex isn't here in person, so I have arrogantly decided to ventriloquize him. So, Alex, your position is that the statement "murder is wrong" is an expression of emotion rather than a moral statement. That's right. Now, clearly, you haven't been murdered. No. Have you witnessed anyone being murdered? I'm an Oxford philosopher. Despite what you see on Inspector Morse, there just aren't that many murders in Oxford. Has one of your family been murdered? Again, no. Has anyone you know ever been murdered? Fortunately not. So I'm a bit puzzled. How do you know that you don't like murder? Well, I've seen lots of murders on TV and cinema. How many of these TV shows have you watched? I don't know. Must be hundreds. And yet, having determined that you don't like murder, you persist in watching those shows that serve up murder as entertainment. Have you ever seen a show where the murder or murderers are perpetrated by the hero? Of course I have, many times. And have you ever found yourself rooting for the hero, even though they have committed an act that you profess not to like? Now I come to think of it, I have, on many occasions. So I guess it would be more accurate to say you dislike murder when it is done by bad people, but you like murder when it's done by good people. No, that's not true at all. I dislike murder no matter who does it. Okay. Can I propose a mechanism by which your dislike of murder has come about? Sure, propose ahead. I propose that at some point in your life you encountered murder at one remove, possibly through the news, on television, or at the cinema. That prompted you to reflect on the murder. Perhaps you imagined what it would be like if somebody tried to murder you, or maybe if someone were to kill a member of your family or a friend. And when you imagined that scenario, you had a powerful emotional response which led to your dislike of murder. I don't remember ever doing anything like that, but it seems plausible that my dislike of murder could have happened that way. So I'm a bit confused. Wouldn't you feel equally upset if you imagined you or a loved one dying by accident? If you imagine them falling off a cliff to their death or fatally struck by lightning, wouldn't you feel an equally powerful sense of dislike? What is it that's special about murder that causes you to single it out, especially when it's probably the least likely way that you or anyone else you know will die? I hadn't thought about it that way. I'm sure there is a good answer to your point, but I can't think of it right now. So it's clear to me, at least, that murder is wrong as a statement is doing more than simply saying, I don't like murder. And to understand that, I'd like to return to what I said earlier about murder being wrong by definition. See, if we go back to ancient times, there was no such concept as murder. In those days, if you killed somebody who was a member of another tribe, the members of that tribe had a duty to kill you or a member of your tribe. That way, justice was done. Later on, the term murder was actually used for killing somebody you didn't know in secret. These kind of killings would be subject to a trial. The other kind of killings would be dealt with in the traditional way, through the family or the clan of the victim killing you or one of your kin. Now, by the time we get to the Hellenic period of Plato and Socrates, the term murder was pretty much used in the modern sense, as an unlawful killing. The person accused of murder would be subject to a trial and would be punished according to what was laid down in law. So it's clear to me, at least, that murder and its wrongness are much more than expressions of emotion. The need to identify murder as an unlawful killing with ceremonies around the determination of what is murder and what isn't, and with punishments that are laid down and generally accepted by the community, arises out of a community of a certain level of complexity. That is, a society that has moved beyond the level of small groups of closely related people which don't have a lot to do with each other. Without the complex community structure, there can be no such thing as murder. There is only killing. This brings me to my fundamental disagreements with emotivism as a philosophy, which are twofold. Firstly, it divorces the individual from the society that they inhabit. We live in a society that has rules that cover just about every aspect of our lives. Some of the people will claim that some of the rules have a moral backing. Murder is wrong is one such rule. Other rules, not so much. There are people that would argue that not paying your taxes is immoral, arguing the emotivist viewpoint, saying, I don't like not paying taxes. It makes no sense as a sentence. Surely the accurate thing to say is, I like living in a society where those less fortunate are looked after and where it's safe to walk the streets. Paying taxes is an acceptable price to pay for living in such a society. There is a chain of reasoning that links paying taxes and living in a decent society, but that chain is formed of rational arguments and not emotion. Secondly, let's say for the sake of argument that we accept that emotivism is true. There's no such thing as morals, it's just like and dislike. You still have to figure out what to do, both from moment to moment and in the long term. Now, Alex has a go at doing this when he talks about deciding to eat cake versus going to the gym. He can say that if you like being healthy more than eating cake, then you will avoid the cake and go to the gym. But this misses out the crucial middle step. Your rational mind has to step in and say, hang on, if I eat cake now, it's going to make very little difference. But if I get into the habit of eating cake and I don't get into the habit of going to the gym, then I will end up being unhealthy. I can call up a vision of future me in both scenarios and decide that, all things considered, I will give the cake a miss and go to the gym. Now, there is an element of like and dislike there, but the rational argument is the thing that's doing the heavy lifting. Now, in the intro, to the edition of Aristotle's Ethics that I have, it actually says that human beings are notoriously bad at knowing what's good for them. The problem is that it is literally impossible to figure out the long-term effect of any action you take today is. This is what John Vervaeke characterizes as cognitive explosion. That's why a practice like virtue ethics is needed. Without any external framework, you're inventing your own philosophy from the ground up, which is just infeasible. To add a third point out of my two, some pleasures are just incommensurable. Let's say you go to work to ensure that your family has a nice place to live and enough to eat. Outside of work, you could either spend time with your family, go for a workout at the gym, or volunteer in a homeless shelter. How do you decide? The happiness that you get from each one is just not the same. Whichever one you choose, you will still feel the regret of the path not chosen. Even if you think it's emotions all at the bottom, you'll need a way of making the wisest choice you can and being as satisfied as you can be with the choice you make. For me, emotivism's like a kind of anti-philosophy because it reduces all choices, big and small, to personal preference. Want to devote your life to caring for the sick in the poorest part of India? Cool. Want to get a semi-automatic assault rifle and shoot up a shopping centre? Go for it. It's all just preference. You've got to have some idea of the good life. And I think that in positing his eat cake versus go to the gym example, Alex is implicitly acknowledging this. There's a long-term good that at least has to be considered and weighed against the momentary pleasure. Now, you don't have to believe in God or gods, or even that there are universal moral principles to believe that there are better or worse ways to live your life. Clearly, you would have to be unbelievably lucky to live a good life simply by doing what you like from moment to moment. Trying to figure out from first principles how to balance what you would like right now against what you want in the long term leads straight to Vervaeke's cognitive explosion problem. And this is where, for me, philosophy as a practice comes in. Why invent it all from the ground up when you can take advantage of the wisdom of the clearest thinkers of the last 2,500 years? Virtue ethics says that all things considered, living a good life is better than not. The virtues, and particularly the cardinal virtues of prudence, also known as wisdom, justice or fairness, fortitude, that's courage, and temperance, self-control, provide a scaffold that supports you when figuring out what is the best path to follow over the short and the long term. In short, you ask yourself the question, what would Aristotle do? That's it for today. I hope you found that interesting and thought-provoking. If you disagree, please leave a comment. I'd love to see where I got things wrong. Until next time, this has been What Would Aristotle Do?